There are normally three reasons why every consumer needs to manage their spending. The first one is to control your spending patterns. The second one is to actually manage your risks, and that includes insurance, assurance, your saving for retirement, and saving for a rainy day. And lastly, the third category is to control debt repayments. Now, what we have in South Africa is that there's about 22.5 million consumers that actually make use of credit, and just over 10 million of the 22, that's just over 50% of those consumers are currently in arrears with their payments. Now, why is that? That's simply because the consumers are not controlling their spending. They're probably saving too little for the risk issues, and they're spending a little bit too much on debt repayments. But let me explain. So normally in a budget there are three categories. Also household expenditure, that includes food, clothing, accommodation if you're renting, entertainment and so on. Second category is your insurance or your assurance. That's your short-term insurance, funeral cover, your retirement spending, and saving for a rainy day, and retirement spending. And lastly, your repayments on debt. When you actually take those three categories, how do you actually balance the spending between those three? Now, there's a very easy norm that you can use without even having to do a full budget where you can actually explain that. So let's explain that norm. We call it the 35-25-35 spending norm. The first 35% is your spending on household items. When you actually then spend money on food and entertainment, school fees and so on, that shouldn't exceed 35% of your take-home pay. Second category is your spending on assurance, retirement, risk management should be close to 25% of your take-home pay. And then lastly, your repayments on debt should be less than 35% of your take-home pay. If you add that up, you'll add up to 95%, at least 5% for emergencies. Now, what we do have in South Africa is that most families control their spending on household items to be around about 35% of the income. Most families spend too little on risk management, so it's your short-term, your retirement spending, and they spend between 15 and 19% on that. And then lastly, on debt repayments, the average that people spend on debt repayments is 50%. So when you spend 50% on debt repayments, you're asking for trouble, and you say you're out of kilter with the norm, and it's an unhealthy budget and it needs to be addressed. So if you're in a situation where you're actually not managing your finances correctly in terms of this norm, or when it's unhealthy, then I think, first of all, stop to say, how does it compare to the 35-25-35 model? And then start to address each plan individually. Remember, every budget needs a plan, and you can actually sit down. If you control your spending patterns, you can actually get well ahead.